Welcome back to Hearts Align podcast, everyone, for another live episode. And I'm here with Konstantine Dean. He's an author of the book The Soul Experiment, and he plays sacred music as well. So I'm just really excited to get to pick your brain about this book. Let's go ahead
Yeah,
and yeah. So you ready to
I-
just
I'm
go?
super, I'm super, super excited to be here as well. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Mhm.
Um, so I think we should just start by asking, what is the soul experiment?
So this whole experiment was born from basically asking myself a question, and really it was looking at my life and saying, what if instead of, looking to further my career, for one thing, or looking to, how can I gain from certain situations, or you know, looking at life the way I've been doing so far throughout my life. What if instead of that, I asked a different question and really, really committed to the answer of that question? And that is, what if I really came at my life, everything in my life for that matter, from the level of my soul? What if I really didn't do what, my ego desired, really what, was just would have benefited me or, my friends, or, but really, really, if I looked in a deeper place, in the deepest place I can really, and ask questions there. And really, if I aligned with what I got back and really committed to taking action around that versus, you know, coming from a place, that is more self-centered or more tribal, like thinking like my tribe, my friends, my company I work for, let's say, or, my family, but really thinking of things from a level of just really touching base with source, with an intelligence that resides within me and really resides within all of us. And yeah, and just coming from that perspective of I am a part of everything, and as we all are, and yeah, and coming from that perspective. So that's really how the book I wrote, and really the meditations and the whole path, the whole practice involved there, that's really where it came from.
So how would you say you came up with that question? Like, what made you ask yourself that? Is it meditation that kind of led you to asking that question in the first place?
Yeah, so I've been practicing meditation off and on uh, for many years, like almost 30 years. And I can say a lot of it was just really just quieting the mind, trying to lessen stress in my life, or, there was a goal in mind usually. But one thing that um, really transcended all that, that really with practice, I developed, was really just that awareness of just understanding that there is an intelligence, and there is faith that takes place with that intelligence, and going deeper in this way. Yeah, it brought me really to that question of really, you know, everything I've done in my life has taken me to where I was, and yet as happy as I was, it was superficial. There was something that I knew I should be doing in not just with my life, but in many situations around my life. I knew that it was within me, but at the same time, I was like, yeah, well, I'm busy, trying to make a living and trying
Yeah.
to put money here and there and trying to raise a daughter and have friends and do this and that. But yeah, so really, it was just I knew that everything external had its limits, right? No matter how much I acquired or did, or there was always another level there, and I realized that maybe I should stop chasing something and really get more in touch with something. And yeah, that's
I love
that's where it comes from.
that. Yeah, I love that because I relate to you. I find myself asking that question too. And it is hard when you're just focused on surviving the day, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you know, so we'll keep diving into the answers here, but I just want to say that I ask myself that question too. You know, what is deeper than this, right? This path that we're supposed to take as in modern society, you know, this fast-paced way of living. Um, and so, can you tell us why is it important that we raise our level of consciousness and our ability to love in the world?
Yeah, that's a big theme of the book, right? And ultimately, like I said, getting in touch with source through meditation, really what becomes very clear, you know, I think to anyone who does that is really that the level of consciousness we're at really has an effect on everything around us in our life. Um, and what is that deepest level that we can go within ourselves? Like, what is the underlying purpose of everything really is love, right? And it's really a spiritual love, right? Wanting to lessen suffering, right? For ourselves and others. And not just wanting to lessen the suffering of others, but really, uh, yeah, wanting to connect with others. I think that is one of the reasons, if we're honest with ourselves and we look very deeply into what we do, everything we do, it's really for connection. And I think the ultimate level of connection is really connecting with source. And I think when you look at others and you start to see that, you start to see people as expressions, as universal expressions of source, of source energy, as souls, and you start to really look at people in a profound way. Um, the idea of just, you know, trying to gain something from someone, or you know, trying to gain by knowing someone or what have you, all of that really starts to become irrelevant. And it really, you start to really just see that we are here for that. We are here to elevate our consciousness and our collective consciousness, and to just love. That's really why we're here.
So you think that the more we raise our level of consciousness, the greater ability we have to love?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, you know, when we look at the world today, especially if we look at, you know, it's very easy to become to go into survival mode, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and survival mode is really the base level, right, of consciousness. It's really, uh, you know, sleeping, eating, trying to acquire things to survive, and we see this in the world, and at the same time, staying at that level is it becomes destructive for ourselves and others over time. So moving beyond that, you know, thinking more than just survival, thinking about well-being of others, thinking of human flourishing, thinking of not just human flourishing, but even, you know, animals, and, you know, having a connection to a pet and taking care. You know, someone once told me, you know, one of the greatest things you can do when you're going through a rough patch or through something difficult is really making sure that you're caring for others as well, because that helps to elevate you. And I found this especially, you know, true in a professional environment, like when things are rough and things are difficult. If you look at leaders, especially, and I've been fortunate that I've been in leadership positions, when things get difficult, if we're just looking at surviving, it becomes even more difficult. Really,
Oh,
it doesn't,
yeah.
you know. Yeah, and but when we're looking at, well, how can we thrive and how can we take care of other people as well, and how can we make sure that they're doing well as well? If you look at leaders who are really self-centered and just thinking of themselves, when things start going wrong, it's very easy to blame others. It's very easy to look for, you know, with the weakest link and take it out on them, or you know, get rid of them. Whereas a real leader looks at, how can I inspire everybody else now to you know, level up, basically, and how can I get the best out of them? And that's what leadership really is. So yeah, so that's really going back to the level of consciousness, as you were saying, is that having that expanded consciousness, not just thinking of ourselves, and yet being self-aware in the sense of how do my actions, my thoughts, the way I present myself to the world, my presence, how does it affect others? And really bringing that presence into the world as a leader and looking to elevate others and looking to elevate, our friends, our family, then our community, then others even further away from us. Thinking this way really elevates us in our lives at the same time. You can't help others without helping yourself on some level as well. So really getting out of the ego in that sense, getting away from just thinking of yourself and your survival, which is what the ego is. Ultimately, it's a survival mechanism. And it has its place. I mean, we're living in the physical world, so it does have
Yeah.
a place. But getting beyond that really helps with, flourishing and taking us to another level. And then, like we were saying, getting to another level of love, ultimately, really opening our hearts up to being able to love others on a much more profound level, to see them on a much more profound level, and to open ourselves up to being loved on a more profound level as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that along my journey as well, that that's definitely true for me. The more conscious that I've become, the more I've been able to love myself and others. And I think it just goes to show that we really are all one, because it feels so good when you do something like a random act of kindness for someone. Like, it makes you feel amazing. And maybe that just kind of goes to show that we're all so connected. Like we feel elation when we help someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about grounding. Can you talk about what is grounding and what are the benefits?
So ultimately, grounding has to do with our nervous system. It has to do with being able to stay present regardless of what is happening around us. It's very easy, like we said, in our day-to-day lives to, encounter stress. We have, pressures, especially the world today, the way it is. There is so much that can stress us so easily, right? Between going out into the outside world, between, depending where you're at in your life, school, work, what have you, it's very easy to get stressed, right? It's very easy to have stress has become a normal part of life. And I think that it's part of the work, that the most important part of the work, the foundation of it, is really being able to stay present, like we said, regardless of what is happening, regardless of all these pressures and the stress in our lives. And in order to do so, it is not enough to just try to do that. It really, I think it's important to have a practice. I see the value of that throughout my life. I've seen the value of that, and really the development of that, of developing a practice where we ground ourselves habitually as a habit every day, something that we do every day. And what this does is it really moves out towards others around us as well. So they feel, when we're grounded, everyone else trusts us more. They feel safer in our presence. We actually become safer to be around. And yeah, it benefits everyone around us, not just ourselves. Simple practices for doing this, and there are many. I don't know even all of them, right? Like, there are many ways that people can ground themselves. A simple way is just, walking outside barefoot on grass helps, because you're getting in touch with the Earth's magnetic field. Staying stillness, breath work for myself, has been extremely valuable and extremely helpful in this regard. So practicing breath work every day, meditation, asking questions that expand our consciousness and that also deepen our perspective. So very important practices. Qigong, the art of Qigong, is it's been a big blessing for myself and something that I practice daily. It has made such a difference for me in terms of getting up in the morning and having a practice and, movement. And yeah, it just my whole day goes differently, regardless if it's a stressful day. I'm not as reliant as on what is happening externally. You really, by grounding yourself, you yeah, you just develop that presence that you can remain present. Whereas, without having this practice in place, stress would affect you a lot more, and would affect others around you and your outcomes. So I can't stress enough how, as a foundation, I think that everyone should have a grounding practice that works for them and that they enjoy. That's one of the most important things. So, like I said, it could just be going for a slow walk. Um, Something I like doing every few weeks, at least once a month, is really going for these slow, long, like 4 hour walks. And I'll just walk through the city, and I'll just, silently in my head, I could be reciting a mantra, or I can just be sending love to people. And, people will feel your energy, just walk by people and just politely smile at them, and people feel that. And that, yeah, that is, just really centering your body and just walking slowly, moving through the world slowly with a presence, irrespective of what's happening around, is it's a great practice.
Yeah, I've been trying to walk barefoot more on the grass, on the sand, just take my shoes off any chance I get. Um, because I learned that the natives used to say that shoes make you sick,
Mhm.
uh, because of all the positive energy that we're absorbing through the earth into our bodies. And so it's like a charging station.
Mhm.
You go walk and charge yourself like you charge your phone.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
amazing because it works so fast. You don't have to be out there for a long time. You could literally just walk out there and stand there for 10 seconds and you're already helping yourself.
Yeah, you'll feel something, absolutely. And they say ideally 20 minutes is a good amount of time. But yeah, like you said, if you can only do, like, a couple of minutes, it will make a difference for you. And, that reminds me, going to the beach. One of my favorite things to do is just walk on the beach, walk on the shore barefoot. And, the water, between the water and the sand, is just something that I always, come back so replenished. Whenever I do that, I just come back. And I live, in a colder climate here. So winter time, between November, December-ish until March is like very cold and full of snow here. So there are some people who will walk barefoot outside in the snow just the same. I'm not one of them. I'm not as daring. But
Yeah.
yeah, just getting away from that, though, and going somewhere where it's sunnier and you can just walk outside on grass, on sand, it really changes your whole perspective in the winter. Like, it makes such a difference, and obviously sun exposure too. I mean, it makes such a difference, right?
Yes, and of course, how you were speaking about breath work, qigong, yoga. Yeah, I have also noticed that those things really help me as well. They're very powerful, and if you can have a routine of it, that's my goal. Don't always hit the mark, but I try to do a little yoga every day. Um, okay, so let's talk about compassion. What is the role of compassion in our lives, and also for others? What are the roles of compassion?
So yeah, compassion is basically, it's defined simply as having a concern for the suffering of others. I think equally it goes the same way for ourselves as well, realizing that we're human beings, and not to come from a self-centered place or an egoic place, but really just to look at ourselves and realize that physically we do have our limitations, and that we deserve compassion as well from others, and obviously from ourselves. And one thing I've definitely noticed is people who if you look out in the world and you see people who are very angry, let's say, clearly they've been hurt in their lives, but they usually don't have a lot of compassion for others and for themselves as well.
Yeah.
If you look at them the way they look at themselves, really, yeah. So so compassion is a critical thing. I think it's very important to understand that when people wrong us, um, everyone sees others as an extension of something that is going on within them. So people who are abusive, people who are angry, who are harmful in this world, it's very important to have boundaries, of course. I'm not trying to say that we should ever allow people to be abusive towards us or to stay in situations that are bad for us. Of course not. But it's important to look at the other person and realize that hurt people hurt people, they say, right? So somebody who is abusive is clearly coming from a place where they can't handle something that has happened to them, and they don't have the awareness, the consciousness level to get beyond that. Again, doesn't mean we shouldn't have the expectation that we don't deserve to be treated a certain way and that we should stay in that type of situation.
Hmm.
But it does mean that we do have uh, everyone, including ourselves, will benefit, and our consciousness, our level of consciousness, will benefit and will rise. We will be able to see beyond just their behavior into seeing that this is a human being who is not connected with something deeper within themselves. They are struggling, trying to survive, and their story is something that clearly is twisted. You'll see that with people who are narcissistic, for instance. Their story is one really where they believe they're surviving and they're doing the right thing for themselves. But the truth is, not only are they not doing the right thing for themselves long term, they're hurting others around them that they want love from. So yeah, so compassion is something that it needs to be cultivated. I think that the world we live in is starving for compassion. If we look outside into the world, it's literally starving for compassion. And I think that by making it something that is a regular practice, something that is normalized in our lives
Hmm.
for ourselves and others, I think that collectively, just as a collective, it really affects a lot more than just what we see and what we think.
Yeah, so what you're saying is not allowing yourself to be mistreated, but you're saying that having understanding of another person's behavior, um, that is what we need. We need to have that understanding. Um, I thought about something that my therapist told me, my old therapist back in the day. I love this because I always think about it. So somebody who, doesn't have compassion for themselves, someone who's narcissistic or has experienced a lot of trauma and they're not healed or, doing the work, it's like they're walking around with third-degree burns all over their entire body. And
Mm-hmm.
so like the smallest thing can set them off because they really need a lot of help, right? Um, Even myself, I can say, I've come a long way compared to when I was younger. I think I was walking around like that, like metaphorical burns all over me. And so like the easiest things could like, dysregulate my nervous system and cause me to behave certain ways. And, you know, um, it's being unconscious, you're unconscious and not treating others as good as you can. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of like throw that in there just to add to your point.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, a good little image there to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, so having compassion for others. Um, so how do you think somebody finds their purpose in life?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big.
So this is yeah, this is the heart of the work, right? And the main theme of the book itself really is uh just going to a deeper place. And I found experience was that, yes, seeking, going through life and seeking, things that would bring me more pleasure or would give me more money or would give me, that's one thing. But really, the deepest purpose we have is really that connection to our inner intelligence, to the source of everything, to God, to, the intelligence that really runs us, and having that faith, developing that faith. Um, that is really the work. That is really how we get to our purpose. So beyond what I just want or what my ego wants, really going deep and seeing, you know, not just what lights me up and makes me feel alive. That is definitely something, but really, where am I guided? Where am I really guided from a deeper place? And asking the right questions, and really, part of my practice is before I go to bed at night, just really asking the questions as part of my meditation and my prayer at night, and then really waking up in the morning and just being in that state where I can just meditate and focus on my breath and get very still and just be open to receiving answers. And usually, I'll keep a notepad next to my bed, because a lot of times the downloads just really flow to me really fast. Like I'll get so much, and it's happened to me before where, ideas have come to me about, something I should do. And I thought, wow, that's such a brilliant idea. And I was just like too tired maybe in that moment to write it down. I told myself, oh, this is so brilliant, though. I can't forget this. I won't forget it. I just repeat it to myself a bit. But then, I'll fall back asleep slowly, and then I'll wake up, and it'll be gone. I will have completely lost, what that download I received, right? So yeah, keeping a pad and paper and journaling as well. Uh, it is so important. And really, when we get in touch there, what comes to us is surprising sometimes. And really, we start to rely on a deeper intuition versus just our instinct, which is, it has its value, but our instinct is, our gut instinct is based on survival, it's based on fear more. Whereas our intuition is really coming from a deeper, higher place. And a lot of times what it'll tell us will even be uncomfortable. And that's how we know that really it's our intuition, because we know we're not fantasizing, or we're not, because, a fantasy or just something that is, we're trying to avoid pain or avoid fear, is really, survival based. Whereas something that comes from our intuition will sometimes feel uncomfortable. It'll sometimes feel like, this is the path to growth, but it'll feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found listening to that voice has always brought me so much more than the little discomfort that I've had to face. On the other side of that was always something so much greater in terms of wisdom, in terms of my experience in the world, where it has brought me, and the connections I've made because of it is just something so much greater. And it's interesting to note too that I have seen that, in terms of, if we're looking at masculine and feminine energy, it's intuition is a feminine component. It's a feminine factor that we have inside ourselves, all of us, but women have it to a far greater degree. Women friends I've had or relationships I've been in, I've seen it to such a deeper degree than what I have within myself, even, in terms of the contact I can make with my intuition, how much I can really connect to my intuition. And I think that that's something worth saying, that I think the world we live in has for the longest time tried to numb women to that, and tried to really um, suppress that. I think the world we live in really tries to suppress intuition in all of us, really,
Oh yeah.
but especially in women, though. And I think that's a very powerful component of relationship, something that we don't always realize, but even our relationship to ourselves, but our relationship, a functional relationship with someone else, that that feminine role of intuition plays a great role. And yeah.
I'm glad that you um, mentioned that about the world trying to suppress that, because I often think about that, like about how it's a patriarchy and how everything is so masculine. And I contemplate that. And I think you're absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head, because intuition is feminine because it's receiving,
Mhm.
And so it may, and you know, the powers that be want us to not to be out of touch with that intuition. So what better way than force the patriarchy? Right?
Yeah, and that's it's kind of a topic of my second book that I'm working on, but yeah, really just the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine and what it's interesting what you're saying about you know the masculine in this world, whereas for the longest time, if we look at it very carefully, it is, you could say, almost like a perversion of the masculine in the sense of that really, if you look at power structures in the world, it's very easy if you're looking at it from a very calm place and you look at it very with stillness and you just look at it from that perspective, of the perspective of really a higher state of consciousness, really, you'll start to really see very easily that for the longest time, even men have been the power that we have as men and women has been suppressed. The true power has been perverted almost just because that's how you numb people, and that's how you take people away from their power,
That's how you
and
control.
that's how sorry, go ahead.
That's how you control them.
There you go. Yeah, those are power structures, right? And that's part of my book. That's one of the downloads I've received is that where we need to be headed, where we have to be headed, and part of that evolution of consciousness, of human consciousness, is really that we have to be in control of our power, of our energy, of ourselves. And my power needs to end where someone else's begins. Me having power control over others, I need to gain awareness of how where I look for that, because that is a that's what's hurting the world. That is the beginning of where we go wrong in the world. And the more we can realize that I need to be in touch with my power, and in my life it has to revolve around my energy and my power, and you need to be yours and someone else theirs. And this ultimately is what will lead to human flourishing, is trusting that energy, trusting that intelligence we have inside ourselves. For the longest time, there are so many forces, like you said, in terms of control. They want to disconnect us from that, disconnect us from the voice we have inside that connects to God, that connects to source. We have that, we all have that connection inside us. And by disconnecting us from that, we can be controlled. But when we're not controlled in this way, when we're actually going in and in charge of our own energy, there is so much beauty that happens. And this is how nature works, really. If you look at nature and you look at how some animal schools of fish, birds, the way they fly, and that everyone, for the longest time, they thought that, okay, there's a leader and they're following but it's actually where there's this harmony, where they're all the leader. They're all instinctively following each other and leading each other, by trusting, what is innate inside them. And that is universal, intelligence that's guiding the world. And the more we get in touch with that, I think that is part of human evolution. And the reason we're all here is really to get in touch with that. And that's what will bring about a better world, really.
And you're absolutely right. Masculine in itself is not toxic. It's just how you said it's been perverted. And that's a really good point, because there is a healthy masculine and a healthy feminine.
Mhm.
We just get back to that, because they have everything reversed to try to throw us off. But more empowered that we can be, the better off, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Let's segue into forgiveness. Why is it so important?
So forgiveness, and this is hard for a lot of people, and for myself as well. For a long time, it was a difficult thing. But forgiveness is ultimately about letting go. Um, I, I once read uh, something. I believe it was attributed to the Buddha that holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal in your hand that you want to throw at somebody else, but you're holding on to it. You're holding on to the hot coal, and it's hurting you, right? And forgiveness is a lot like this in that not being able to forgive, although on a very basic level, going back to the survival mechanism that we have in that level of consciousness that is very basic and survival based, we feel that by not forgiving, by holding on to a grudge, let's say, we're able to better protect ourselves. We're able to better survive because we won't forgive somebody, so we're not going to let this happen again. And that's where healthy boundaries come in and are very, very important. But forgiveness, we need to start seeing it for what it really is, which is a letting go of anger that we've had for someone. Understanding, this leads to a deeper understanding that we start to see beyond. And that's where we start to see human beings not as a threat, or this person is a toxic person, or this, but we really start to see that, these people were hurt and they never learned how to deal with that hurt. And they allowed it to make them into potentially monsters, even in this world, right? But it came from pain. It came somewhere deep down inside. There is probably even a child that was just hurt and never, was able to deal with this hurt or shown how to deal with this hurt. And that's part of the world we live in. And that's something that we have to heal. Because, going back to that basic forgiveness is that we realize that that other person is a human being who was probably hurt in their life. And although, yes, they do have the responsibility to deal with that, it's not our responsibility. However, not forgiving them is allowing now their pain and their harm to now affect us and affect us in our lives and how we trust others and how we relate to others. And holding on to that anger will affect other people in our lives. It doesn't just end, with them or with us. So that's where forgiveness is so important, because we're basically giving, not allowing them to take our power, and we're forgiving them in the sense of saying, I see deeper than just what this is, and I see that it's something that comes from pain, and I can understand that this person is hurt, and that uh, I'll let go of anger that I have, so that I don't get caught in that web. I don't get caught in living according to their trauma anymore. And if you need to set boundaries and you need to have distance from this person or never even speak to them again, that's one thing, and that could be valid. But you're not never speaking to them out of spite, out of anger, out of hate. You're not speaking to them out of quite simply holding compassion for yourself and saying, I deserve to be treated better this way than this, and I don't deserve their suffering to now start affecting my life the way it is, right? So having those healthy boundaries is important, and it's critical. But forgiveness is, and I found that the faster that I forgive, now I'm capable of usually seeing, and I stumble sometimes too. We're all human. We all react sometimes, but can we shorten that so our reaction and our anger, let's say, we don't hold on to it. We'll let go of it very fast, and we see, look, this person is going through whatever they're going through. Can I help them right now, or can I not? Can I just move away from this? But let it go, because they're clearly going through some suffering, and me just labeling them a bad person without really knowing what unfolded in their life, what happened to them, what people. Some people have horrendous stories, right? And so it's easy, instead of just labeling somebody as a bad person and just saying, oh, I'm going to hold anger for that person, or I'm going to try and get back at them, or I'm going to, letting it go and letting it go to the universal intelligence, to deal with, to deal with it the best way that should be dealt with, from a higher plane. And you're just letting it go and having that faith that was there something to learn here for myself? Maybe for that person in their journey, they needed to learn something here. And maybe your forgiveness of them is something that years down the road will, make the difference in their life. Well, they'll realize that, okay, well, this person didn't try to hurt me back when they could have. Or, they didn't try to be spiteful to me. Or, they told me quite simply, like, look, I can't continue this relationship, but, I don't hold any ill will to you. You know what I mean? Like, just, yeah. So that makes, it can make such a difference. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you for explaining that. That makes a lot of sense. And that kind of flows into the next question about what is the importance of being accepting of the world?
Yeah, so that connects to that, right? Like, I went and I listened to this speech recently that was it was about a little over a month ago, and it was just, yeah, so beautiful, that understanding that really we're taking part in a miracle. If we really look at it really honestly, and we look at things really, really in depth, we'll realize that the world is, we're sitting in this world that's spinning through space, and that we're all on it, and there's gravity and there's oxygen, and it's all related to, the trees and what's going on. There's so much going on that allows us to be in this moment and to have even this conversation right now. And accepting the world is understanding that things are unfolding, and that the faster we can accept, even when something happens in the world, our resistance to things does not necessarily make them better. We believe, and we try to have control, by saying, okay, let's say something bad happened. Well, my gaining control over that to make it right. Okay, that's, what can I control? Asking yourself a better question there. What can I control here? What can I actually do? And just doing that and accepting that things happen for reasons sometimes that we don't realize. When I look back at my life, throughout my life, I have been in positions where, I didn't get a certain promotion. I was lied to at work, and I sat there and I thought, you know what? I meditated on it, and it came to me, what? This isn't the place for me anymore. Really, I realized this was not where I should be. And I looked for other work, and boom, I found a job that was paying me a lot more money than what I was making there. And it just felt like, when I trusted that, let me accept what's happening instead of fighting back at it, let me get very still and really ask the right questions that lead to expansion, questions that lead to understanding. Let me really delve deeper into this, and being loving. And and I remember when I left this one company where I left, and I remember, uh, uh, my boss was even just a little stunned. He thought in his head, like, because he had been promising me this promotion, and eventually it didn't happen. And when I left, it was just like, he thought it was out of spite, or I would be angry, or I just came in and I wished him really well. I was going on to a better job, making quite a bit more money, closer to where I lived. I mean, it was, everything just worked out, and I just went, wished him all the best, and walked out. And I remember he just had this puzzled look on his face, like, he thought I'd be bitter and wouldn't talk to him or something when I left. But yeah, so that acceptance, having that acceptance and realizing things are unfolding, from an intelligence that we don't understand. Things are unfolding on a level that we don't, our perception of reality is so limited, right? In terms of our vision, in terms of our hearing, right? We know this for a fact, right? We can only pick up certain frequencies. We can only see certain spectrum of color. We can only understand certain things. So even logic has its limitations. And there's so much that goes on that we just can't comprehend. That's the truth, right? And that's part of, that goes back to that universal intelligence, trusting that within ourselves. Sitting here right now, our hearts are beating, right? Our bodies are doing things, and yet it's our body, it's me. However, there are things that are happening that I have no control over, right? And yeah, so it's important to really just look at life from that perspective of just an acceptance of where you are. And the faster I think you can accept even something negative that's happening to you, the faster you can accept it and then ask the right questions. What can this mean and what can I possibly do here? And sometimes it's the only answer is really trust, just trust that there's something more than you going on here. And, that's where prayer and really trust, faith comes in. So acceptance is something that I struggled with it a lot when I was younger. I thought, no, I have to push, I have to push, I have to push. The problem is there'll always be things that we can't control, and there will always be sometimes things that will present themselves in our lives that, like we said, we don't see coming. And thinking that we can control everything, not only puts us in a very stressful state, it just we can't control everything, right? So controlling what we can within ourselves, and the questions we ask ourselves and our perspective and our getting into alignment with greater intelligence. I think that's what we should do, and we should accept that even when things happen that seem negative, there's more going on there that we don't always understand.
Yeah, it's it's definitely hard. I know that I've struggled with accepting certain realities in the world. But yeah, all you can do at the end of the day is ask yourself, well, what can I do? Like you mentioned, what do I have control over? And other than that, there's there's not really much beyond that you can do. You don't have control over that. So yeah, that's a very, very important point that you made. Oh, I just want to take this time right now to say that I am so grateful for you and for your book. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Reading your book, it felt like I was reading downloads,
Mhm.
because I could just feel your words resonating, and I could feel the love as well. I
Well,
genuinely, like, I just felt so much love coming from your writing. So yeah, I really recommend anyone who's interested to check out The Soul Experiment. It benefited me a lot, reading your book. So I'm just so happy that we connected and that I got a chance to read it. And speaking with you right now too, I can see, like, I can see the parts of myself, like you're reflecting parts of myself back, and it's like it's really cool. um
mhm.
I just resonate a lot with with the things that you say. So yeah, I'm really glad we got to connect. I just wanted to tell you that before I finish up the questions.
Yeah, no, that means so much to me. I can't tell you how much it means to hear that. It's, that's the reason I wrote the book, right? And I told myself, as long as it touches some people's lives, and the feedback I've gotten on it so far is great like that. And I infused it, the meditations, the thoughts I put behind it, the questions I put in there, everything was really from a place of love, that I told myself that if this is what I want to share with the world, and it's what resonated inside me. And when I asked these questions, like you said, I received these downloads to put this on paper and to share this. And some of it is not really new, some of it is things that I've been exposed to myself and has come to me, but a lot of it is just has just come as part of my story, and has come from a higher intelligence, and was really gifted to me, right? So I felt like it was so important to just get out there and share it. And yeah, the feedback that I'm hearing and what you're saying too is just, it means so much to me. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Of course, yeah, you can really feel the magic in it. Like, your downloads that you are sharing with us, they're being transmitted definitely. um and then Oh, and the fact that you put together the exercises with each chapter, that is profound because you gave us things to try. And I was doing the exercises as I read, and that was making a huge difference too. So, reading and plus the exercises, that just deepens it, the meditative practice, and gives you things to try. And yeah, so I'm happy that you made it so interactive as well.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big point of it too, is really taking people on this journey and yeah, and just making it an experience almost, right? Like, that's some of the feedback I've gotten, that it's not just like you're reading a book, it's like you're experiencing something that you're bringing with you in your life. And it's if I can benefit uh you know one person, 10 people, 100, 1,000, whoever benefits from it, I think it will spill out over into the collective. And it's so important to make this like my life's work. This is what this is. And again, this is just really connecting to deeper purpose. What should I do? And this is what really inspired me. And it was a little uncomfortable at first, because I hadn't really written a book, you could say, before. I hadn't really done this, and I was just taken in this direction. And even musically, I've been playing music since I was, 13, 14 years old. I've been playing guitar, and the music that I've been making in the past few years, it's something I discovered by just listening, by just being aware. And it took me there. This universal intelligence that we have, the voice inside, just it speaks to us, and it speaks to us through others as well. And yeah, and I just was introduced to different music that I wasn't listening to, even though I was aware of mantra and some sacred music. I just went on this journey, and it affected the music I play, people I'm meeting. Yeah, it's just really a journey when we open ourselves up to really listening and just being still and just being present in the moment, as opposed to looking for stimulation, which is something that in my younger years, in my 20s especially, I was just so fixated on stimulation and feeling alive, and adrenaline, and not even realizing that. And then it was just that slow journey of meditation and breath work, and that really brought me into tai chi and qigong, and then yoga, and my practice, and people I met. And my life would have been very different if I wasn't listening, if I wouldn't have listened to that voice.
I'm sorry, I have a crying cat at my door.
No problem. No problem.
Her cries got louder and louder to where I couldn't.
She she was missing you. She wanted to see you, so, or he.
She always
She
crashes my
she
podcast.
trashes your podcast. Yeah, she starts to miss you after a while, and she wants some attention. Yeah.
She loves to be featured in them. Well, we're all really happy that you did decide to write the book, and I'm sure everyone, including myself, is looking forward to any future books that you're going to write. And yeah, it's really inspiring that you did it. Congratulations.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. I'm focused now on writing a second book. Like I said, that will delve a little deeper, and then I even have some plans for a third book around this, that just really is part of this journey on going deeper. And one thing I just want to add, that, and I think this will help a lot of people, because for myself, it really changed my perspective, is really how certain painful things that have happened to me in my life, by just remaining present through them and learning from them. What is the lesson there? And learning and moving through them. Uh, they've allowed me to go so much deeper, and to see and to write and understand things that I never would have been able to, had I just tried to keep numbing myself in life, or trying to avoid these things. Or so I just, that's part of my message, is that if, people are in pain, or if they're suffering, realize that that suffering does play a role in something, and if you use it to elevate yourself, and you look to see beyond it, and you get very still, and you work to regulate your nervous system, and to come from a loving place, and to still be loving towards others. All of these things together, I think, will take you to a different place, and yeah, that's the purpose of, I think, suffering in this world, is really for us to come together and really get to another level of consciousness. I see that within myself and my journey, and it's so important that I share that, I think, with everyone, because I know what it's like to feel like, I don't know how to get through this, and this is, uh, overwhelming, and
Mhm.
it's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're meant to get through it, yeah.
See, she crashed the podcast.
She's a beautiful cat, yeah, beautiful.
My little baby right here. Um, yeah, that is such a good point to make, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. You know, pain is a probably the best teacher.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, as uncomfortable as it is, um, we are strong enough to be able to transmute it and make it through and feel all those tough feelings and make it through to the other side, and we can learn a lot from it. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I noticed that in all of the best teachers, they have, you know, not had an easy life. They've experienced a lot of hardships, and it made them to where they can guide others through who are going through similar things. So yeah, I agree with you there. Um,
Hmm.
I think our time is almost up, but let's see. Well, I just want to shout out your Instagram. It is the Soul Experiment. You're on it right now. If anybody,
Hmm.
but if anyone's watching in the future, you can follow Konstantine Dean at the Soul Experiment on Instagram. And any other platform you want to shout out?
Uh, I also have the Soul Experiment on YouTube, and yeah, I'll be sharing content there as well. Different, podcasts and different clips, and some music as well there. I also do have another Instagram handle, Bowden.music, which is where I share more of my music, and I have my personal Instagram as well, Constantine Dean as well, if anybody wants to follow there.
Okay, and that's Constantine with a
Yep.
K. Um, and
Mhm.
how do you spell Bowden?
Uh, Bowden, Bodhin dot
Dot
music.
music. Okay. Um, and so let's hopefully we don't get cut off, but let's end it with what is one thing anyone can do today to benefit their lives and the lives of others around them?
Yeah, so I would start at the most basic level, depending what they're doing. If they have a practice, a yoga practice, whatever they're doing in their lives, definitely, that is the most basic important thing, is really something that regulates your nervous system. And from there, anybody who has that, from there, reaching out, really looking at the world from a perspective, a compassionate perspective, forgiveness, being forgiving, accepting, and most importantly, loving, like really making a part of your practice to be loving in this world, towards yourself as well, to realize you have, uh, every right to be worthy of love as well. And definitely, I feel that it moves this way, right? Like, we need to be loving towards ourselves so that we have that love to share with others. If all we're doing is expending, putting out love, but we're neglecting ourselves, it'll be difficult for us to remain loving, and we could even become resentful. That includes in our relationships, in our family, our friendships, everywhere, right? And but most importantly, yeah, that's, that is the goal, is really, is love, and you already have it in you. You just really have to go there and get in touch with that intelligence that you have inside you, and that love, that universal love that is there. And once we start radiating that in the world, I mean, that is the reason we're really here, and getting in touch with how does that express itself as individuals? How do we express that in the world? And that's our work, right? And that's that's all there really is.
Tap into our hearts, live and try to live from our hearts, and we'll be elevating the world in the process, and you know just spreading all the love and receiving all the love. And yeah, um you really inspire me to because these are things that I've been on the same path, but thank you for the inspiration, because the message that you're spreading, it really like lights me up, and I'm sure everybody else. And just thank you so much. You're such an important soul on for yourself, but for all of our journeys. It's impacting everyone. So thank you again.
That means so much. Thank you so much. And it's pronounced Linnea, your name, or is it
Yes,
Linnea? Okay, it's a beautiful name. Yeah, thank you so much. It means so much to me to come on here and share all this. Yeah.
I so appreciate it. And then last thing, it's kind of funny. You're wearing white and I'm wearing black. We're kind of like the yin yang, the balance.
Yeah, I was thinking
Oh,
that too. Yeah,
really? Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, yeah. I was like, should I have even wore black? No, I think this is good. It's a nice contrast.
I love the duality. It's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Konstantine. Well, I will let you go, but have a wonderful night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
All
Okay,
right,
take care.
you too. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. See you later.